The first question everyone asks is, what is eRIS? What does it really do? So this slide explains it. We are a browser-based solution, primarily focused to do data management, and we do these three things extremely well. We help you manage, analyze, and visualize your information. That's what eRIS does. Now, don't be confused by the word browser-based. eRIS does not and is not always deployed in the cloud. We're not internet-based, just simply browser-based, which means there's no software to install. But most of the time, an eRIS application or the eRIS server is located or stored on-premise, but it also can be deployed in the cloud or in a number of different ways within your organization to help you manage your information. We also underline the word enterprise data because eRIS does connect to just about anything within your organization. This slide gives you the sample data sets of where eRIS is connected to. We started out connecting to SCADA systems, but we've broadened eRIS's reach to connect to just about any type of application or data storage within your organization. So we have clients who are connected to all of these kinds of systems, and we have some that are only connected to just a few, but just about any data repository, any place where you store data, eRIS can connect to. And what does it do? Well, it helps you visualize, analyze, or manage that information. So it's an enterprise system that helps you do those three things. Well, how do we deploy eRIS? Well, we start with those sources that we just described. In this case, I've got 4 samples. One is a SCADA system, a LIM system, and then we've got 2 data sources, one for electronic logbook data and one for the manually entered data. And those sources will be on your environment, and we will put in an eRIS server, usually deployed as a virtual appliance, or it can go in as a physical appliance, either way. And we have these things called connectors that connect the eRIS server to those data sources. This implementation takes approximately a day, and we're not kidding. We can have an eRIS server up and running and able to work with your data in usually less than a day. And once we're connected, you're off and running. We're utilizing eRIS to do data visualizations, building dashboards and reports. We can use our analysis tools, our calculation engine, or we can help you organize your information to make it more meaningful. Typically, we have partners then who extend the reach of eRIS outside of their organization using our product called eRIS Web Data, where they can then access data sources that exist outside of their enterprise, such as maybe weather data, or maybe they have a Internet of Things company that is producing data for them in the cloud. And we use eRIS Web Data as a portal or a data brokering tool to get that data within their organization. And finally, another use of eRIS is to push data or broker data into other applications. We have clients who are using eRIS to push data into their mapping systems, their GIS systems, or collecting runtime data from their SCADA system and pushing that into their maintenance management or their computerized maintenance management systems, their CMMSs. So eRIS can be used in a lot of different ways, but the key takeaway is it's very easy to deploy and has lots and lots of uses. So around each of the functions that eRIS does, from a management perspective, there's all different kinds of ways to use eRIS as a management tool. I talked about it connecting to data. We also have the eRIS Web Data, which I mentioned, but there's also a tool called data validation that builds a clean data stream of data typically used for regulatory applications. We also have a really easy to use report builder, and then I mentioned earlier, but we have lots of tools that help you put data into a database using manual data entry forms and sheets. We also have an electronic logbook that I will show you during the demonstration how easy it is to use. That logbook and some of the other tools like the manual data entry can be accessed using specifically designed mobile applications that work both on the iOS and the Android platforms. We also do a lot of exporting of data, so you can get data out of eRIS or using eRIS to get it out of source systems very easily. And we also have a whole way to add what we call tag descriptors, which allow you to create metadata around the data that is stored within your data sources, maybe your SCADA system or your laboratory system. Gives you a way to just make it easier to find and easier to use for your end users. From an analytics perspective, this is where eRIS really shines. We have a really easy to use but powerful calculation engine that basically allows you to do either simple or complex algorithms on data to help you find data that doesn't fit or is having problems. We have this whole process called monitor tags, which I'm going to demonstrate through a client experience where it really looks for data anomalies or things that are out of place and helps you identify those passively while you're off doing something else. eRIS is looking for exceptions and then notifies you when problems happen. And we can also create what we call rule-based tags, which are really just pseudo tags or tags that don't really exist. They're data points that don't really exist, but are built on calculations that or rules in the eRIS language that help you create new data from existing data and give you different ways to look at data. And finally, we have lots of ways to visualize all of this information with dashboards and reports, and even ways to go find data through ad hoc or queries or trends. But unlike a lot of other systems, we also connect to your SCADA alarm databases and have lots of ways to help you look at SCADA alarms using an alarm statistic program that's built on the ISA 18.2 standard. So if you're familiar with that or want to use eRIS to help you look at your alarm statistic, you can do that. And as well as I mentioned earlier, but we can connect to lots of different maintenance or asset systems, and eRIS has lots of tools to help you manage and analyze and visualize that type of information as well. So who uses eRIS and why do they use it? Well, this is an example of or a map of our partners within Canada. So we are based in North America. So we have partners both in Canada and the United States. Lots of partners in Eastern Canada and some out in the West as well. And here are our U.S. partners. We're looking to expand the U.S. partner base, but have a pretty good distribution across the United States. Here's a list of some of the partners that you may have mentioned or may have seen or heard of. Denver Water is significantly a large customer, but we also have the city of Toronto in Canada and lots of the major cities in Canada, along with several large cities in the United States as well. So why do people use eRIS? Well, this slide is intentionally complex and very cluttered. That's to help you visualize that people use eRIS for a lot of different reasons. There's lots of things that eRIS can be used for, pretty much anything you can think of when it comes to analyzing or visualizing data or information, eRIS can be used for. So we have people who use this eRIS just for electronic logbooks, or we have people who use it to manage their energy consumption, or use it for data validation, or help with assets, or operational reporting. Everything you see on this screen, someone within our eRIS customer base is using eRIS to do that type of work. So next I'm going to get into a few examples, specific examples of how some customers are using eRIS. The first example is the city of Winnipeg using eRIS. They call it report by exception. eRIS, the terminology is called monitor tags. But I'm going to talk a little bit about how they're using eRIS to help them find and resolve and then keep track of things that happen that are unexpected or out of place within their organization. They're reports by exception. So how do monitor tags work? So this graphic, this workflow, or this schematic kind of explains the 4 different phases of monitor tags. The first thing that eRIS is doing is monitoring or looking for unexpected or even expected results, things that it can flag. And this happens on a repeatable schedule, so you can look for things every day, every hour, all down to maybe every 10 or 15 minutes if you want. This is not designed to replace alarming that may come out of a process control or a SCADA system. This is designed to be looking for monitoring of things that are not critical. This is not the fire alarm, but this is more of a passive alarm or a passive looking system. So as the monitoring happens, if it finds something, things are flagged, and then people are notified. And the notification can happen to individuals or groups in or outside of your organization, and people can be then assigned work tasks. Those work tasks are associated with workflows, and assignees who have been given work tasks then accomplish or do that work and then provide feedback within eRIS to tell what they have done, either through comments and or closing of work assigned tasks. And the notification process continues through this entire workflow. So not only are individuals notified at the beginning of the event, but they can be notified throughout it. So as people open tasks and start tasks, and people close tasks, or people make comments, all of that can be distributed out to the notification group that may be interested in what is happening. And at the completion of that process, there's an entire feedback loop again, that all of the feedback that was accumulated throughout the entire process is consolidated into a final report, and that final report can be sent out to anyone within the group or with any individual. So a different set of notification people can be used at that point as well. So this is all about finding issues, notifying people, tracking what was done, and storing or archiving that feedback in a permanent format. So how does that work? Well, the first thing we're looking for are out of whack conditions or things that are happening that are not what needs to be happening. So we're maybe looking for things that are out of range, or things that values that change at an unrealistic rate, or maybe data that's supposed to be there that's not there, or really any kind of algorithm or combination of values from specific data points that are of interest can be flagged and kick off the monitoring process. Email is the typical way in which we communicate what's going on. This is an example of an email that was sent out. Talks about the pH being out of range, and can have lots of different people can be notified. Can even include a report that might be generated by eRIS to help people understand what was going on when this exception happened. The work tasks are managed by this portal called our My Tasks portal, and people interact with eRIS and review and comment and complete their work tasks using this part of the application. The left side is how they interact. The right side is just the recording of what is going on. This workflow status is still incomplete. Even though a few of the steps have been completed, the entire process is not complete. And when it's done, though, the workflow then will show that the work status is complete, and a complete archive of what has happened is available for everyone to look at, and it can also be downloaded and stored. Our client Winnipeg puts this into a document management system and keeps this for long-term archival storage. The second example is from the city of Waterloo. They are using eRIS as a data visualization and analytics tool, looking at water distribution pressure and looking also for leaks. The instrumentation that they are using is placed within fire hydrants. So it's hydrant systems that have pressure and leak detection using acoustic or pressure listening devices that are stored or that are placed in hydrants throughout their distribution system. But eRIS is the tool that they're using to do the data visualization and analytics. So in this example, this is an eRIS chart at the top that shows a kind of a blip there in the round circle, and that is an actual transient event or a transient pressure event where a pressure wave is passing through the distribution system at the speed of sound. The instrumentation is able to detect that, and then it records the sample in over 100 samples per second. And the detail that we're showing you on the bottom is eRIS being able to display all of the samples, those 100 samples per second over that sound wave. So that's a very short period of time, less than a minute or so of data, all shown in that little circle at the bottom. There's also a different type of user interface looking at this data as well. We've got a map interface that shows the sampling points, those fire hydrants that have the pressure and the acoustic listening devices. This is an example of the screen that shows what the information area looked like before a leak. I'm going to give a spoiler alert. We're going to see a leak here. So on April 7th of this year, there was nothing really going on. Everything looked like it was in normal condition. On April 8th, there's a few small yellow circles right around these couple of hydrants. Unfortunately, the organization, City of Waterloo, didn't notice them in time, but that was the start of a leak. At least it was what we now know was the start of a leak, because on April 9th, it was pretty obvious what was happening. There was a huge leak in the system. Those rings show in representation the amount of sound within the system. So those are the bigger and the redder the circles are, the more sound, the more acoustic data that's being gathered up by the sensors and then being visually displayed within eRIS as well. We also have another look at the same data. This is using the eRIS scatter graph technology. So the red dots represent sound data that's being captured for today in each one of the hydrant collection systems, the hydrant systems instrumentation. The gray dots in the background represent the previous 2 weeks average data. So you can see that the gray lines are pretty small and level and right along the bottom of the chart, and the days graphic when there was a leak, obviously lots of sound, lots of stuff going on ahead of time. The third example is from another customer up in Canada called the Rural Municipality of McDonald and their use of electronic logbooks. So they were using paper logbooks. I love this. They purchased them at Walmart, and they would have, it would only be within their plant operations. So in the control room is where they would store the paper logbooks. And they would never really write down who worked on a given day. It was just, you kind of had to be able to read or detect who happened to write in the logbook to see who might have been on call that day. They also consistently would use the logbooks to leave gaps when they thought somebody might want to come back and fill in more details. Although oftentimes those details never got added, and so there would be these big breaks within the logbook when somebody thought somebody might want to write something, but it never got filled in or caught up later. The other thing that he would do within their logbooks is put sticky notes in them to explain to people or give a note to show where someone might have stored a picture. Or they may have hand drawn in a note or something in the logbook. But these sticky notes would tell them where on the hard drive or in the file system or maybe what email they could go look at to find the picture that would help understand what the log entry was all about. Not really efficient. McDonald introduced eRIS, and now they have a electronic logbook where they are using it substantially to, one, keep track of who was working during any shift. So that's what this log entry is down here. This has the listing of everyone who was on duty for a particular day. Even operators that were on call are all listed within an entry on the day. And then they have the list of log entries, including entries on the weekend from people who may or may not even be on at the plant working. But people using the mobile application can make entries from anywhere. So what does the team really like about it? Well, they've really got three huge benefits. One, they really like the flexibility of being able to put log entries in just about anywhere. They can do it in the plant, at any computer, but they can also use the mobile application to do it online, whether they're on the grounds of the facility or not. And everyone can look at the logbook. They're not just the people within the control room, but anyone within the area who has access to the logbook can see what's going on. And even more importantly, they can make logbook entries, like I said, from home. If they're on call or they get a call, somebody can make a log entry, or they can go, if they go directly to the field on a non-work day and come back, they can make log entries from just about any place that has where they have their phone. So one example happened. So our partner was out in the field looking at a lagoon or a pond on the property and saw an algae bloom that was growing up in their pond, made a quick picture, took a picture of it, added to a mobile entry, and submitted the logbook entry from her phone. And about 20 minutes later, walked back into the control room and found her team already working on that problem. So she didn't have to make a phone call, didn't have to notify anyone, simply put a log entry into the electronic logbook with the photo, and that started people solving problems. So really easy to use and gets people's attention. The second example that they provided for us was they have this hard to find curb stop. And in the past, it was hard to remember where this was on this person's property. So they simply just took a photo, added a log entry that included the customer's address, and now anytime anyone wants to be able to find that customer curb stop, they can easily go to the electronic logbook, search for that address, and get to see this picture. So another easy way to use the logbook as a simple way to share information. So those three examples give us to the final question, which is, why do people, or what's the value proposition around eRIS? Well, we believe it's four things. The first and foremost is that this system, eRIS, was designed specifically for the water industry. We grew up in the water industry. We talk with professionals in the industry. We are professionals and leaders in the industry, and this product is a representation of that. And we are constantly improving eRIS. We have a full development team that works constantly to improve eRIS. And where do we get our ideas? Well, we get our ideas from the people who are using eRIS. We intentionally go get our clients and ask them how we can make eRIS better. We do that through a whole partner initiative where we work with our customers as if they're partners in the application. And then finally, what makes us different is, well, eRIS is not just designed for one small group of users within your organization. It's not just designed for operations or just not designed for water quality staff or maybe engineers, but it's designed for the entire suite of people that work at your organization, from upper management to operators and everyone in between. It is designed to be used just by about anybody within the organization because we have all of those different tools that are available.